Welcome to Bourbon and Branches and No BS, the podcast coming to you from the center of town, beautifully located in the center of downtown Fredericksburg. And our host, Susie Woolham, is here. Susie, welcome to fall.
Oh my gosh, I was totally going to welcome you to fall.
Here it is.
Here it is.
I know.
It's so exciting. Cozy sweaters and leggings and warm drinks and the fact that it's 90 degrees outside today. We'll ignore that part.
We did welcome fall with 93 degrees.
We did, but it's Virginia, so,
yes. So
we're
it made
lucky
sense
that it was only 93 degrees.
It made sense.
It did.
It's pretty much normal for Virginia. You're absolutely right.
And it could be 40 degrees tomorrow.
Yes.
So
we're going to talk about a lot of things fall related and the season change and very exciting things and a lot of things that we can do to sort of prepare our bodies for that.
Absolutely. People, when it comes to things like New Year's, everybody always makes New Year's resolutions and they want to start their new life at the beginning of the year. It's the beginning of something. And they feel like, it's the 10th or the 15th of January and they haven't made a resolution or they don't like the resolution that they made or they're having a tough time and they feel like they have to wait a whole nother year. But I think we can always start our life every day. But certainly at the beginning of a season, it's such a great time to evaluate who and what we are. And moving into fall is absolutely the best time to do it because we've just come out of summer, right? Everything's crazy. It's hot. We're working. We are the ants. We're not the grasshopper, unfortunately, around here, but we are the ants and we're working to prepare ourselves. As we move into fall, the farmers are bringing in their crops. They're deciding which fields are going to lay fallow, which ones will be planted next year. So even farmers, even with this cycle of the year, they're deciding how their body is going to change, how their world is going to change. And it's a great time for us to evaluate where we are in our own personal health, where we want to be, and how we can move into that winter of our lives, that time of sitting and becoming comfortable and preparing ourselves for our spring.
Almost becoming comfortable in a new skin, because if you think about a new season, you sort of
is absolutely
shed the
a new
old,
skin.
go into the new.
It's time.
Yeah.
It's time. You can't take summer into fall.
Yeah.
Granted, Virginia.
We do. Weather-wise.
We do. Wait 5 minutes and it'll be different.
Yeah.
But emotionally, spiritually, physically, the season is still changing. And even though we welcomed fall with 93 degrees, we have had this lovely breeze for the last 3 days.
That's true.
Which we have not had for weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a change.
Yeah.
The winds of change are blowing in.
Yeah.
So how are you going to embrace that? How are you going to move yourself into fall? And most people just don't even think about it. They take the same supplements going into fall that they did all summer long. They don't think about how the food is changing, how the earth is changing, how they need to supplement their diets a little more differently, prepare themselves for winter. So there's little tiny things that we can do on a physical level, on a spiritual level, and on an emotional level that help us to kind of make that transition a little more effectively.
I know you have a lot of people who will come in and talk about, speaking of the physical change and going through a season change and that sort of thing, who will ask you about, okay, what should I do with my diet differently? Mm-hmm. But then you also mentioned supplements, which I think sometimes can go hand in hand.
It's funny that people will think about eating differently, but they won't think about changing their supplements. For instance, I will talk to clients about increasing their vitamin D in the fall because they're not going to be in the sun as much. And it's important to keep those levels up. So maybe we need to reevaluate where you are in your vitamin D. We need to reevaluate where you are in your vitamin C. We want to make sure that we're boosting your immune system. You want to look at my big thing, as everybody knows, is eating seasonally and locally. So what can you get right now? You shouldn't be eating strawberries in September. I'm sorry. It's not a thing.
It's not a thing.
It's not a thing. Right now, you should be looking at what you're getting at your farmer's market. You always want to eat seasonally and locally. The things that are growing at that time are the things that your body needs to get you through to the next phase. Making sure that you're getting enough vitamin A and D, always super important. And I like to get it from diet more than I do from supplementation.
Right.
But if you're not a big meat eater, as we go into the fall, we need to look at increasing your vitamin A, D, and K. We need to change up your minerals. We need to make sure you're staying hydrated. We need to look at what you're no longer getting. If you're no longer eating food that's grown in the ground, then your trace minerals are going to go down. So we need to increase your trace mineral intake so that we can keep those mineral levels up.
That makes sense. So, I know a lot of people have different thoughts on getting the flu shot and the flu season coming up and that sort of thing. A lot of people have so many different opinions on that. And I'm not going to point you out for an opinion, but
thank you.
I'm just curious when people come in and say, maybe I don't get the flu shot and how can I make sure I have my immune system where it needs to be because this is how I, do my lifestyle. Well, you can sort of direct people in according to what either camp that they might be in.
Absolutely. There are some options available, and we recommend things, especially at this time of year. I think it's so important for people to start making their fire cider. If you haven't started already, Rosemary Gladstar's recipe is one of the greatest gifts I think anybody has ever given to mankind. It is so simple to make. It's a wonderful thing that you and your family can take and use every day, and you know that you have created it. You know exactly what's in it. If you need the recipe, please feel free to email me, and I'll be happy to get it for you. But it's available on the internet. Rosemary Gladstar made sure that it was available for everyone to take care of themselves because she understands how important it is. There are homeopathics that we recommend moving into flu season. There are, again, herbs and supplements and things that we just look and say, okay, if you're exposed to this on a regular basis, we may want to go this direction. Or if you're exposed to this on a regular basis, we may want to go this direction. My, base across the board advice is stay away from things like hand sanitizers. That's probably the best thing you can possibly do for yourself. Sorry, I know that's
a thing, yeah. But talk a little bit about that because I think that's very interesting and that a lot of people are like, I hand sanitize all the time. Why is that? Why do you think that?
Number one, most hand sanitizers are a very high percentage of alcohol. You don't need that much alcohol on your skin. And I'm not going to get into all the whys and wherefores, but you don't. It's a bad plan. Number two, they disrupt the acid-alkaline mantle on the skin, the thing that actually keeps us from getting sick, which then exposes us to more things. Our body doesn't know how to fend these things off. We have become such a vaccinated, clean, sterile society. We don't allow dirt to come into our lives. Soap and water is one of the best things that you can do for yourself. But when you continually sterilize your body this way and it doesn't know how to react to things it comes in contact with, then we become more susceptible. But additionally, it leads to strains that are stronger and stronger and stronger as they mutate to overcome these chemicals and things that we're putting on them. So to me, one of the absolute worst things that you can possibly ever do for yourself is use hand sanitizer. Soap and water goes everywhere. It's super simple. There are some really wonderful companies out there that make soap that doesn't need rinsing. If you're really concerned about that, one of my personal favorites, as you know, is mixing borax powder and water to make a watery soap, which is so great and easy, and it doesn't disrupt the skin, and it can be used on infants up to the elderly. It's cheap, it's easy, and it works. Dirt don't hurt, folks.
There you go.
Dirt don't hurt.
There's a good hashtag for this episode. I like it.
Hashtag dirt don't hurt.
I like it a lot. So one of the things that I know we wanted to talk about, and we talked about this in the summer, but a whole maybe different but same conversation, is staying hydrated during the season change.
It is so important. Everybody in the summer thinks about drinking enough water because they're hot, they're sweaty, they're outside, they're doing whatever. As we move fall to winter, because we're not outside sweating as profusely as we do in the summer, people don't drink as much water, and you've got to stay hydrated in the winter and in the fall, just like you do in the summer. So this is a great time. If you're not already drinking enough water, this is a great time to start. Move yourself into that so it becomes a habit as you go into the season.
Yeah, and if you haven't heard our hydration episode, go back and listen to that because it's a really good episode about how you can, incorporate cucumbers into your water. Something to help it, where you're not just having plain old boring water.
But you're actually having water.
But it's true. And dehydration, I mean, we just had a family member going through dehydration not that long ago, and it can be a serious, serious problem. It can cause a lot of issues, a lot of problems, nausea, fever, all kinds of things.
Dementia, hallucinations. It can cause a lot of things. And most often, And this is certainly not any type of slight on our medical industry because, as you know, I love our medical industry. But many times when you go, if you're having these types of conditions and you go to a hospital, dehydration is not going to be the first thing that they look at. So it may take a while for them to get to that point to find out what's actually going on with you. And by that point, you've caused a lot of damage to the body. So, I mean, it's free. It's simple. It's water. Just do it.
Just do it.
Just do it. Just drink it.
Just drink it. That's the hashtag we can use. Second hashtag, same episode.
Just drink it.
So if we were driving a really fancy car right now, I would slide it into third gear because we're going to take a shift.
Oh, we're shifting. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I thought we'd shift and talk. Speaking of shifting, we talk about an energy shift during the season change. I feel like that's a huge thing. I feel like a lot of people experience that because it happens, because everything is energy around us. But maybe they don't know that that's actually what's going on and haven't really sort of looked into that.
Energy shift in the fall is huge. There are so many things that are happening with the earth, with the weather, which is the earth, with each of us in our lives. Just to take a single person, one human being, their children go back to school, so that changes their whole schedule. Well, now depending on what their cooking schedule was, now that changes and they have to make different meals at different times, and so their focus and their energy has shifted to that. And now you have grumpy people that are coming in, and you have certain expectations that are on you, and your emotions run high. So there's this type of a shift. The earth is shifting to move into, again, laying fallow and preparing itself for next year's crops. So that's a big energy shift. Of course, we just had the harvest moon that came through, which is to me, it's one of the bigger full moons of the year, just because it is that sort of culminating. It's the culmination of fall. It's, here it is. Okay, everything has to be done. Here we go. So all of that energy, that tide, that pull, can have a profound effect on people, whether they're in tune with it or not. Sometimes really good, sometimes, as you've seen lately, sometimes not so good. But it is a real thing. It's an emotional change. As we move into winter, everyone has heard of seasonal affective disorder, and there are 100 different reasons that people have it. But I think that energy shift in the fall, not being prepared for that, where I am, who I am, what are my roots? Are these roots that I want to keep? Do I need to plant myself in a new field? All of this energy, all of this change is something that we need to address. Reiki is so wonderful for that. But even quiet meditation, journaling, earthing, just walking barefoot, especially in the morning now, because you're going to have a cooler morning.
Right. You were talking Reiki being a really good thing during a season change. I think that sounds fantastic. And a lot of people, when they come to you and say, I feel a lot of different things happening around me, inside me, gravitational pulls and whatnot. How can I center myself? And those are great suggestions. Obviously, there's so many different ways you can do it. It's really about sitting down and talking to someone.
Absolutely. And it sometimes is that simple, not keeping this to yourself. As we go from summer, where we're out, we're active, we're at parties, we're at the pool, we're out around people, as we move into fall, we start to become in that, again, the sweaters and scarves and leggings, we start to hibernate a little bit. And going in with that energy where we haven't expressed it and we haven't understood it can be really tough for people over the winter, whereas sitting down and saying, I feel funny lately. Something that simple where someone can talk to you and say, it's a seasonal change. Here are some things we can do. Mm-hmm. Let's try this instead of this.
Right.
Let's try doing this instead of this. I mean, little tiny changes that you can make that kind of bring you out of that cyclical, I don't know what's happening to me, I can't tell anyone, they'll think I'm crazy, and then we sort of implode.
You were talking about Reiki, some of the other things that you could include in this season change with your energy and your body, maybe a massage regularly if you haven't done that before and you don't do it regularly.
Massage is great. Any type of body work that moves the energy, moves the fluid in the body is perfect. So massage, reflexology, Reiki, healing touch, any of that's going to be good because it's going to help to shift that energy. But more importantly is your intention. So if I were to pick on you for a minute, just because you're sitting in front of me, so where do you, and certainly don't answer me because this is your business,
right.
but where do you see yourself moving into this winter? What do you see that time of winter, your downtime, your hibernation time, your fostering time, the time that you're going to take care of you? What do you see happening? What do you see yourself coming out as next spring? So this is the time to set that up. So are you going to climb Mount Everest in the spring? Okay, well then this is the time for you to make sure that you're doing all the things that you need to do that. Are you going to whatever? But the fall is such a great time to say, all right, this is what we're doing, is we're preparing that ground. We're preparing that ground to sit all winter and prepare itself, to let it just figure out what it's going to be. But this is the time that we set that up. So any type of energy work, but also if you're not already journaling, sitting down and writing, next spring, I'm doing this. Mm-hmm. Okay, now how do I get there? I'm gonna walk to California. All right, well, let's make a list. A, gonna need snacks.
Right, of course.
You know me. There's a trip, it involves snacks. So it's really, fall is really just a time of preparation that leads us into everything that's going to happen for the next year until we get to the end of summer next year. I know most people think that happens on New Year's. I don't particularly agree with that. I think that
I like that too, looking at a season change as sort of setting new intentions and
absolutely
becoming, purposeful about what you're doing next and making a new plan. And you don't have to wait till the new year to do that.
You don't. And New Year is in the middle of winter. So it's not like you're going to motivate yourself. I mean, don't get me wrong. I know people do really well with New Year's resolutions, but think about fall. Here we are, the trees are losing their leaves, and that's a sad time for a lot of people, but it's beautiful. Mm-hmm. But it's also the time of year where all of our deciduous trees are changing, and our evergreens are going to be the only trees that are green. So it's their time to shine. So it's not a total time of death and cold and dark. I mean, these are the most beautiful green trees that are coming out to greet us. So that's our time as well. How are we going to be that? How are we going to be that thing that shines in the winter so that come spring, we are open to these fresh, new experiences so that we can make it through summer to get to fall?
It's interesting how, I mean, I know the seasonal change, it's hard for a lot of people, and they do feel, kind of a struggle to walk through that, and it can be a difficult thing. But it is interesting how changing our perception sometimes of things can also be a big benefit.
And this is a perfect time to do it. There's no expectation, and that's the other great thing about fall. And I guess since I'm telling you this, I'm giving you an expectation, but let's just pretend for 1 minute that not everyone in the world listens to this podcast. Let's just pretend. So
I'll try.
There is no expectation that every other human being on the planet is making their fall resolution. This is where I see myself going. This is how I'm going to take my life forward. Where New Year's, it's an expectation.
Right.
What's your New Year's resolution?
That's true.
Well, first of all, it's none of your business. Second of all, so in the fall, this is such a great time. It just happened. Don't think that it's too far off. This is a great time to sit down and say, where am I going? Where do I want to go? What relationships in my life are working? What situations in my life are working? Is my job working? How am I gonna do that? So there isn't an expectation of anybody else's parameters. It really is just yours. It's private. And I think that is what makes the biggest difference about doing it this time of year, is because you're doing it for you, not because society tells you that you have to.
I mean, for me, like New Year's, really difficult time to set resolutions. I feel like it's a horrible time because, change calendar feels good. But at the same time, it's like I am just starting to put on my winter weight. So don't interrupt me and make me exercise differently. I'm just getting into my comfort zone. I'm just into my winter roll. I just feel like it's not a great time to be making changes.
this. And there's a reason that we have winter weight.
Yes.
It's to insulate us from
Yeah.
the cold. It's to give us energy during times where we can't always get fresh food. There's a reason that happens. We're not bears, but there is a reason that it happens. So I'm okay with that. But again, it's that expectation of, well, what are you going to do? This one-upmanship, where that's not what life is about. Life is about how I'm going to live my life most effectively, how I'm going to exist in my family unit most effectively, how I'm going to exist in my community most effectively. And it has nothing to do, frankly, with what somebody else is doing in their life, family, or community.
Before we get to our bourbon choice, at the end of each episode, we do a bourbon choice, and it's always fantastic. But before we get there, we were talking a little bit before we started the show about herbs and this time of year. If someone was trying to put in some new herbal stuff in their, mix for the season change.
That's so great. So remember when we did our episode on stocking your bar,
yes,
stocking your home medicine chest. So we talked a lot about alcohol, and we talked a lot about different herbs and things that you have in your kitchen. So this is a great time to set up one change. You can even go home and make this today. One thing that you can do in your kitchen that a month from now or 2 months from now or 3 months from now may come in really, really handy. So this is just an herbal powder blend for sore throat that you can have in your kitchen, and you drink it like a tea when you need it. So you're going to put in equal parts of thyme and sage, just the herb powder, like from your kitchen. And then you're going to put in a little bit of marshmallow root powdered. If you have trouble finding that organically, please reach out to me and I will help you get it. So I like to do half a part of sage and thyme and 2 parts of marshmallow root that's powdered. You grind it up, you stick it in the cabinet, you label it. Please label it. You could put it on chicken if you wanted to. It'd be fabulous. But sit that aside. When you're ready to take it, you're just going to mix it with honey. Now, you could mix it with honey from the start and just make it into a paste if you wanted to and leave it. Some people don't like to do that. Even though honey never goes bad, they don't like to do it. But you're going to mix it into a paste with honey, and you're just going to roll it into little pea-sized balls. One of the greatest things you can do for a sore throat, just pop those.
Oh, wow.
Suck on them. They're wonderful. They help open up the nose. They help soothe the throat. Marshmallow root is so great for that. And it never goes bad, like seriously never goes bad. And you can make it now. If you want to make it as a tea, you would use, 1/8 of a teaspoon or so in a cup of tea and with some hot water. It'll change your life, and you can make it now, and it's cheap and it's easy.
All right, let's have a stronger drink.
Okay, so I tried to go with something that was seasonal since we were talking about fall.
Yes.
I like seasonal. So today we're doing something that we have not done in the past. So I actually have brought for you, ta-da!
Ooh, pretty.
This is the Old Cavalier Bourbon Cream. And this is so exciting on so many levels because that's the, hi.
Oh,
hey,
hello.
hi.
How you doing?
It's a bourbon cream, which winter cannot be a much better time than for a bourbon cream. We can add it to not that we would ever add it to our coffee.
No.
Or anything like that. But it has that fall feel. It goes into a lot of cocktails. It's wonderful on its own. And most importantly, you know how ridiculously anal I am about shopping local. So this actually comes from the Tarnished Truth Company, which is out of Virginia Beach. Go Virginia Beach. Right here in the great state of Virginia. They make it right there. It is a rye straight bourbon mixed with sweet cream. It's absolutely delicious. It is like $30. You need this in your kitchen at all times. I'm showing it to you.
I love it.
It's beautiful.
It's like the Old Cavalier people knew I'm going to be putting on my winter weight.
It's like the Old Cavalier people love us all. So here's to Old Cavalier, here's to fall and your changes.
Cheers.
Cheers.